executed on the order of County Manager McNair would have caused less complaint if you had personally talked to those involved and explained the situation.
I'm sure that this probably is correct. I extended myself to the best of my ability to get around and talk to as many as I could personally. I'm sure with over 3,000 people working 3 shifts a day around the clock, 7 days a week, that it's almost physically impossible to expect a director to do this. I certainly instructed my associate directors to explain this to their employees, and they did. They held meetings, but inevitably in a busy hospital, they always miss people. Therefore, to answer your question, I think that if you could have sat down with every individual, that this would have understood.
With an average of around 1,100 men, women, and children as patients, the question becomes critical. Are they getting enough and the right kind of care? While Dr. Gates stoutly maintains they are, there is disagreement. The nurses form the backbone of any hospital, and particularly at Jackson, where they are terribly understaffed. The budget is set up to hire 250 more nurses, but there aren't. The national average is 1 nurse per 100 patients. At Jackson, there is 1 nurse for roughly 200 patients. A young senior resident doctor talks about patient care.
But a lot of things have occurred that most of the residents are disgruntled about, particularly in the situation of drugs and as far as patient care is concerned at this hospital. The big point we feel that when a county is running a hospital as a teaching institution and it has a certain budget to run under, if this economy, if you have to economize as far as the county is concerned, I don't think you should economize as far as the medical care, because I think medical care is a reflection on the county itself. And if, which we feel, a patient is getting poor care because of certain situations, then it's a burden on the county.
Hasn't this cutback impaired in some way the care of your patients?
Well, we would hope that our care of our patients has been adequate. On the other hand, through the pharmacy committee, we have transferred certain drugs from the formulary that we utilize for the treatment of private patients. However, the recommendation of the pharmacy committee was that if the chief of service recommended a certain drug, that chief, if he would sign that this was necessary, this drug would be made available. It's on this basis that we're attempting to meet our current obligation of care of patients at the present time. I'm sure that the members of the House staff feel that we have curtailed their ability to prescribe certain brand name drugs as a result of placing them in their restrictions to the which applies only to generic name drugs for the most part.
We're not worried right now because things are running, they're just starting to get bad. We're concerned of what will happen later on. This is certainly a county-sponsored business, so to speak. But then again, you have a hospital, and medicine progresses every day. And as it progresses, new things come out. And this gets expensive as far as treatment and care and new studies which are being found daily. New drugs.
Mr. McNair, what are the prospects for more money being allocated to Jackson during this budget year?
I think the prospects are very, very slim, Ralph. We run a very tight budget in all departments. There have been unusual demands in all departments this year, and there simply is not money available. Emergency, yes, we can divert monies from various areas, but it has to be true emergency.
Do you think the people would be willing to pay more taxes if they were assured the operation of this medical center would improve?
I'm not at all certain, Ralph, on the basis of my experience so far here, that they would. There are, of course, those people who need the hospital facility, who has an ill person in their family and the experience of being in there, yes. I've had them make these expressions to me. But we have to think of the general taxpayer who oftentimes never sees Jackson Memorial Hospital, wouldn't know where it's located, as a matter of fact. And their great desire is, as I get the picture, is just hold down tax costs.
In return for using Jackson as a teaching institution, the University of Miami School of Medicine is responsible for the care of the patients. The county's share of the is to run the hospital. This amounts to a two-headed system with no one central authority. Many claim this is the biggest drawback at Jackson. Another problem is the heavy charity caseload. About 7 out of each 10 patients will pay little or none of their cost of treatment with the county picking up the bill. But private or charity, patients do have complaints.
Do you fellows get good treatment in here? How do you like being here?
Oh, I'd say the treatment with what help they have got, I'd say the treatment is good. But the trouble is they're so short-handed that they're so busy, and sometimes we turn on a light, the call lights up here, to summon a nurse or an orderly. Well, it usually takes quite a while for somebody to get here because they're so busy elsewhere. They've got so many patients on the floor.
How long would you say it takes for a nurse to come?
Anywhere from a half hour to an hour and 15 minutes.
How's the food?
Oh, terrible.
What would you say is the matter with it?
I just don't like it. To me, it smells bad and it tastes bad, and I just can't eat it. I just don't like it.
Do you get enough to eat?
I would say there was enough to eat there the majority of the times if you could eat it, but I can't eat it.
Do most of the other patients usually feel the same way you do?
Yeah, they all seem to feel I do, that it just doesn't taste good and they can't eat it. Majority of us send it back.
When I came back from x-ray, well, over an x-ray, they twisted and turned my hip, and it got dull like a toothache, and I asked for something for pain when I came back, and that was 45 minutes ago.